Hello. So those pilots that you see walking through an airport, they seem so confident and so disciplined. How do they get that way? Well, you've probably noticed that pilots, particularly as their grades or experience increases, become very confident, that they seem to be very self-disciplined, and they don't seem to be fazed by anything, really. How do they get that way? It's really part of the training, and perhaps a little bit of self-selection as well. For training, starting at the beginning of the private pilot license, in the first maybe 10 lessons or so, students are exposed to a variety of situations where the airplane is put into the outside of the envelope of where it can fly. So we're going to do stalls, we're going to recover from stalls, we're going to do spirals, and we're going to recover from spirals. We'll do steep turns, and we'll recover from those. We'll do spins and recover from those, at least in Canada anyways. So those are things that could be, that put you outside, put you personally as a pilot or as a student pilot outside of your comfort zone initially, and then you learn to handle them, and it builds your confidence that you can really push the airplane to the limits of its envelope. So that's certainly one side. That's how you get to be calm and experienced in the handling of the aircraft. The other part is also handling emergencies, because again, pilots are trained to handle pretty well every emergency that can come up with, that we instructors can come up with, or that the manufacturer can come up with. And we're trained to do that. We're trained on a regular basis, and we're retrained and retrained and retrained. So anything that happens should fall into a bin, and the training takes on automatically. And if you're not quite sure what bin it is, then you're trained to stay calm, just pause and analyze and see what would be the best bin to take the emergency procedure out of. So all of that gives you a lot of confidence in your ability. The mark, really, the first instance most students see it is when they do their first solo. I remember myself, and certainly many other students have expressed it, feeling, wow, I did that. I flew that airplane by myself. I was able to take off, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to land when I took off, but it came out, and that was a perfect landing. And so I was really impressed with myself, and my instructor was quite impressed with me. So that's perhaps the first time the student really gets to feel totally self-confident. So as the training progresses, the student becomes more and more independent in their flying. So once they've gone solo out to the practice area, then we'll send them by themselves out there to do specific activities, but they have to deal with other airplanes in the area. They have to deal perhaps with changing weather. They have to deal with perhaps the airplane not acting the way they think it should act. So that again is because they're able to make it back to the airport or deal with other traffic in the area, builds the confidence as well as before we let them go. We talk about, okay, what are you going to do? Where are you going to do it? What's the state of the airplane? What's the state of the weather? And essentially just plan out exactly what we're going to be doing. And the increasing that is going towards the cross-country trips, where we're planning a 150 nautical mile trip. Student and the instructor do it, but then the student goes off and does it themselves. So it really builds a skill, builds the ability to think ahead, because you really need to think ahead when you're planning a trip like that. And where am I going to land if I'm having problems? Do I have enough fuel? What's the weather going to be like up at altitude? That sort of thing. Yeah, and throughout all of this, students are using checklists, and they are critiqued if they don't do it properly. So that it really becomes self-discipline again. And this is one of the things personally and many other students have learned, is a lot better self-discipline throughout the process, because you can't just sit in ground school and imagine that you're going to pass the written test. You can't just listen to your instructor and go and fly without becoming self-disciplined to study by yourself, to sit at home and chair fly, where we talk about, practice maneuvers with your eyes closed. Just practice them as if you were doing the airplane, and this is really works. So those are some of the things that the student will learn as they go. What kind of basic skills does a student need, a person need to become a pilot? Certainly curiosity is a good one, because you need to want to learn more. You need to be curious about, what was that all about? Or why did the airplane do that? Or why does the airplane do that? Or what's the weather today? And how can I explain that to myself or to somebody else? You have to be aware of their circumstances. It's very important to be aware of your surroundings and be conscious. Be conscious of what's going on, who's in your environment, what's in your environment. You have to be able to do some multiple tasking, not necessarily be able to do multiple things, but at the same time, but to be able to schedule yourself to do different things and not lose any. Make sure that you do them all as necessary. You also need to have a reasonable amount of spatial orientation. Not huge thing, but most important, you really like to learn, because throughout your career, throughout your life, after that, you'll be learning. And so that's a really important characteristic. You have to be able to fly without getting motion sickness. That can pass. I've had students who had bouts of motion sickness, or myself as an instructor, flying in a turbulent day, doing instrument where I'm concentrating inside the cockpit at what the student is doing, or flying in my own training, flying with a hood, so I can only see inside the cockpit. A very good recipe for getting a bit nauseous, but you stop and then do something else. So that's on that note, but I should minimize. That's really very minor portion of people that have that problem. So that's really is just a summary of how do you get to be a self-confident, calm, self-disciplined instructor, and some of the things you need to know about yourself before you start. Thank you for watching.